Hello everyone, welcome back to Brilliant Comics. This is Fabian. So today I'm gonna show you guys how I do the tones for Psychic Revolution. I specifically made this comic to be black and white, mostly because I'm not really good with color, and I wanted to really keep it as like a manga type comic. Well, manga is comic, as you guys know, but like kind of influenced by the manga style. And I strictly use like different type of gray tones. As you saw, like I did like a color sample from a character sheet that I have, and I use that as a guide to what I'm gonna do with the characters on this page. So a lot of the characters that are present in this panel are basically like miscellaneous filler characters, whatever you want to call them. Like they'll probably just show up at this panel, maybe another one later on, but they're not really too significant to what's going on in this story. So I just do it really quick. I don't worry about too much detail. I just want to make sure that at least the tones come out like not too muddy and not clashing with like another one that's too close to it. So here I'm just pretty much like adding it on, probably fixing up some little gaps when you do the paint bucket tool. Sometimes it leaves little gaps around, so you got to make sure you zoom in to color it in. And I've been using this process since volume one of Psychic Revolution because uh, I kind of always been drawn to just really like black and white grain tones more than like full on color comics. So one of the things I've noticed as being a collector and like watching other artists when they do their pencils and inks, like there's like sometimes they get really detailed and they add like a lot of information, like little subtle things that unless you really are looking for it, you can't notice it. And sometimes what I've noticed is that the colorists, especially for Western comics like Marvel, DC, Image, they'll put their style into it, and a lot of times that information is one of my what's the word I'm looking for? So with the color, it kind of takes away that information that was initially put in with the penciler and possibly with the inker. And when you do like a side by side comparison and you look at the original line work, you're like, wow, there was like so much more stuff that appears on the page, like so much stuff that the penciler did and that the inker added onto that. When you look at the color page, it looks like it's missing. So that's kind of like why I stick with the black and white. And it always comes down to preference also. Like some people they want to do color, like they want to really like just go all in and have everything very expressive. Like I did color theory when I was in college for an illustration class. I kind of learned what like the contrasting and opposing colors are and how it would work, but it's not something that really stuck to me. Like it's not something that really stayed in my head. Like I still have my textbook from that day, and I always tell myself if I get seriously serious that I want to do colors, I'll probably look back into it so I can know what colors work best with each other, which ones make other ones pop. But at the moment, I really just stick to the covers for colors, and sometimes in I believe it's volume two, I did add the first page does have like a color sheet that kind of was just like something to explain what you were going to see in that volume. And then for volume three, I did one page as full color also. That was just like a recap of what had happened in the previous chapters and in the previous volumes. I did that, and I even mentioned it in those two volumes. I believe it's probably in the third one that that inspiration kind of came from like the shonen comics. Like if you were to be in Japan and you would get like the Shonen Jump, like the big fat book for the titles that are doing the best, like selling the best, and the readers on the reader polls they say that this is the one that's their favorite. They'll sometimes give that artist a chance to do couple of pages in color. I apologize if you heard the phone ringing back there, and it turns out to be nobody. They hung up as soon as I picked it up. But back to what I was saying. So those color pages I did for those two volumes specifically were inspired by what like they do for the Shonen Jump mangas, and I believe it's for other ones too. Like any of the more popular stories, they'll get like a maybe one or two. Sometimes it'll be the entire chapter will be in full color. So it really depends. But um, when it comes to colors, like I was saying, I'm not really too great at it. It's never been my strong point. I have done color flatting for a friend's comic a couple of years ago, and flatting is honestly for me, I believe it's just the easiest part because it's just putting down the base colors for everything that's going on the page, making sure it's filled down, making sure that it's easily selectable for whoever is doing like the other coloring, like if they're the ones who are gonna go in to do the like the highlights, the shadows, any special effects. So I've done that too in the past, and some people say that coloring is kind of therapeutic for them, like they like doing it, but to me, it's a very difficult process because you have to put a lot of thought into it. You got to really figure out what colors work best with each other so they don't clash or look too muddy or they don't, in some sense, like cancel out what's going on around them. And I noticed with some colors when I've been coloring, especially I believe it's red, it's difficult for you to add an actual layer over it to do like highlights and shadows because the red is seems to be like so saturated that it just the information just doesn't show up. So sometimes you have to actually look around for maybe a different shade of red just to get that to work. Because when I've done the colors for the covers and for the pages I was talking about, I try not to go too pure with red. I'll find something that's a little bit lighter, a little bit darker, and then from there I figure out how to do the lighting and the shading and any type of effect. And like with all things, like you probably see it on the screen, it's layers on top of layers on top of layers when you want to do stuff like this. There's one artist that I spoke to a couple of years ago. She would do everything on one layer. I have no idea how she made that work, but again, it depends on the person and how they like to do things. So, Psychic Revolution Volume 1 is where everything starts, and I have Psychic Revolution Volume 2 also ready to purchase. Volume 3 is going to be coming out probably in the summer or it might be in the fall. I'm not too sure yet, but thank you for coming by and take care. See you on the next one.